Hey guys, this is National Master Kevin Yang back at it with another video. So of course, this is another game with our chess club member Fupalicious. Let's begin. So first move I play, b3. This is what is called the Nimzo-Larsen or the Nimzo-Larsen. So basically the formation of two names, Aaron Nimzovich, Ben Larsen. So when you combine those two names, you get an opening. Here's how it goes. b3, f5. Interesting. Bishop b2, knight f6. And now there are a few ways to play this. White can play e3. White can play f4. White can just sort of copy black's setup. But I went with bishop takes f6. I said, you know what? I wanna see how you fare with these doubled pawns. Right? Because this way, okay, which way would you take? Would you take this way? If you took this way, I have the move e4 coming in with checkmate, so don't want to do that. So after bishop takes f6, Fupalicious played the right capture, and after c4, going for the d5 square, knight c6, knight c3, b6, e3, bishop b4, brought my knight to d5. Now, here I could have played knight g2, I could have also played queen c2 to threaten this pawn, but I played knight d5. I wanted to sort of intimidate this bishop. But our chess club member just said, no, castles. So I brought my bishop out, and then I was like, I didn't know, right? f4. So firstly, a lower rated player would go, okay, well, I can take it this way, I can take it this way, right? But, you know, people like me, we kind of think, okay, yes, we know those two options, but what else is there in the position? And there's this move, queen h5. And then I thought, what if g6, right? I sort of, in the game, I thought about this. Bam, 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 bam. And then when I got to this position, I was like, how do I continue? What do I do? Right? Do I bring my knight out and just think that this will work? Is that what I do? Or do I just, because for example, I play knight e2, right? The queen cannot come to e8 because queen h6 and then knight takes f4 and knight takes this pawn. So everything's loose for black right now. So there's opportunity, there's time. But I just wasn't sure about this just yet. So after g6, I played queen h6. I said, let's keep an eye on that sacrifice. After rook e8, I said, now this works. H takes, queen takes, and now I thought, what if black goes king f8, right? Now you have to think, okay, he can't go here, he can't go here. So what do I have to do? I have to bring my other guys in. So what I was going to do was I was going to play, after queen 8, I was going to play the move knight h3, I think, with the idea of knight f4, knight h5, queen g7. So you can see that these pieces are sort of like on the sideline. The friends are not at the stage, right? The queen is at the center stage. The knight is coming to center stage, but he is a ballpark away. So just think about it that way, right? If you see all these pieces going, I don't know where to develop, that's a sign where you can be like, okay, this is time for me to attack. So in the game, our friend played king h8, and after knight takes f6, I threaten this checkmate, rook e7, queen h6, and checkmate is incoming. So what really went wrong here? Well, first of all, I would have to say, to me, it felt like this bishop should, it could belong in this diagonal, but what I believe the bishop might not belong here. I don't know, just a personal preference. I would play g6, bishop g7. Well, no, that might not be great either. But, yeah, I guess bishop b4 is okay. But to me, it felt like this f4 move sort of gave me the chance to attack. It's not an easy way to deal with it. But I would just play g6. I would just, even if I have like h4, h5, bam, queen f3, queen g3, I have all of that. But it felt, I don't know, it just a slower death. And so f4 just hastened the death. And then I came in, and that's what happened. So, that's this game. Let's get into the next game. Fupalicious once again. So after d4, I played e6, e3, I played f5. So I stuck to a Dutch Stonewall kind of setup. So I'm very flexible as what to do. After c4, played knight f6, and this is what is called the sort of Stonewall setup, Originally, it's supposed to look like this. It's look like a triangle, inverted triangle, Stonewall, wall, whatever it is. I don't know why, but after knight f3, bishop d6, castles, castles. So right now, the position is what I would consider, I guess, I have more space, but white has more pieces developed. So it's sort of balanced. Knight e5 and f4 is something I would consider on the white side. So, I guess. So here's the thing with knight e4. Now you can recognize in the Stonewall that my pawns are already here defending the e4 square. Now the flexibility of white putting this pawn on this square is he can play f3 to scare away this knight, right? Like the pawn is not on f4 like mine is, right? The pawn can just push one square to threaten the knight. That is like an advantage of not pushing the pawn all the way to f5. Knight e2, very interesting decision. I guess maybe you want to play knight f4, works out. But after knight d7, bishop d2. Now to me, when people develop, right, you want to develop your bishop to an effective square where it's going to do something, right? And here's what I would recommend. I would recommend the move b3 and bishop b2. Why? The reason is because I want your knight to get on e5. I feel like that would be more effective, that the bishop plays a role in sort of controlling the e5 square, right? So I guess that's a more effective way of developing the bishop. When you develop the bishop to d2, now this diagonal is sort of like, it's like lost hope. Unless you're planning to play b4, a4, b5, I would understand why you put the bishop there. But in this case, fighting for this square is actually really important on the white side. And so with the idea of b3, bishop b2, knight e5, you sort of achieve that goal, and at the same time, once you move the knight out, you can get the pawn to f3. That's sort of a goal of yours. I'm not going to elaborate on that, but hopefully you do get it. If you don't, then ask me further questions. Bishop d2, knight f6, a3, a5, b4. Now, b4 was achieved. Now we see a sort of purpose with bishop d2, takes, bishop takes b4. Very good, actually. I actually made a really bad decision in taking this pawn. Because first of all, in my mind, the only move I had was thinking a takes b4. And after rook takes a1, queen takes a1, I was thinking about knight g4, piling on this pawn. But I missed this move, bishop takes b4. And you sort of realize this was a bad bishop, right? He had no future whatsoever. This guy had a future. This guy had a future, right? We were eyeing towards the kingside. We had a future. And by doing this, now the bishop is skewering the rook, and now you have not really much choice other than to trade the bishop. So a mistake on my part. And after a takes, I played bishop e6. Actually I was supposed to play rook takes and queen e7 according to the computer, but I kind of felt like, I liked bishop e6. Computer doesn't like it, it's the computer, but we do take their advices into effect. So after queen c2, I played queen b6, knight e5. Well, okay. Now, this is a good understanding, right? Putting the knight on e5, maybe playing f3 later. However, the pawn's important, so rook a b1, b5 is actually a very common thing that white does as a sort of what is called a queenside minority, a pawn storm to sort of weaken this chain of pawns, right? So this b4 idea was actually a pretty good move because you're here to sort of weaken this chain of pawns, and so I respect that idea. After queen takes b4, I don't think knight bishop takes e4 was necessary, because now I get an f takes e4, and suddenly I open this f file for my rook, knight f4, bishop f5, rook b1, keep that pawn, and now our friend Fupalicious goes Hail Mary. I take, queen takes, defend. Our friend here, well, after rook b7, I should have played queen e8. Now, I don't know why I intuitively played rook d7, but to me, I think I just didn't spot knight takes d5. So, fair play. I really like this move, this really flashy move. Takes advantage of the pin, takes advantage of the d5 pawn. After knight takes, queen takes, rook takes, rook takes. So at this point, the black side counts up the material, 3 pawns, white side counts up 5 pawns, but black has an extra bishop. So the game continues by me putting most of my pawns on light squares. h4, rook b5, notice I'm coming down here, rook f7, I want to trade a pair of rooks because I don't want to allow that other rook to come down. After rook c5, looked flashy, but this was the last blunder of the game. Rook b1 check, king h2, rook takes, and getting that rook made my job more than easy enough. So, what really were the lessons in this game? Well, I think a takes b4 was not good for me for sure. And so, I'll go over the lessons in the next video, but stay tuned for more.